I've been in business for over 20 years. Real estate, property management, title, consulting. I've made money, I've lost money, I've built things, broken things, and learned a few lessons that I wish someone had told me on day one. Today, I want to share the 3 that cost me the most to learn. Not business school theory, not a book I read. These are lessons I earned with my own time, my own money, and in a couple cases, my own stubbornness. If you're running a business or building one inside real estate, at least one of these is going to sound familiar. And if it doesn't, good. Maybe you can skip the tuition I paid. Lesson number 1. The threat to your business is not your competition. The threat to your business is obscurity. When I started my first company, Resolute Asset Management, I walked in with one belief that I was absolutely certain about. Be great at what you do and people will find you. Just do good work. Word will spread. The business will grow. Here's what actually happened. We had one client, and we rode that wave for about 6 years. When they were busy, we were busy. When they were slow, we sat around and waited. Now here's the part that should have been embarrassing. I came up in accounting and auditing. One of the biggest risks we would flag in a business audit was concentration of revenue. If all your income comes from one source, that's not a business, that's a subsidiary. I knew this. I identified it as a risk in other people's businesses, and I completely ignored it in my own. It took me 6 years to finally accept that doing good work is just the price of entry. It's the lowest common denominator. Everybody will tell you they do a good job, and most of them are telling the truth. But if nobody knows you exist, it doesn't matter how good you are. People have to know you before they can like you. They have to like you before they can trust you. And that very first word, no, is entirely on you. That's sales, that's marketing, that's showing up where people can see you. And I avoided all of that for years because I thought the work should speak for itself. It doesn't, not by itself. Lesson number 2, know when it's over. Don't put good money after bad. This one almost broke me financially. That same first business hit a stretch where the work dried up. We got slow, really slow. And I had a team of strong employees, people I cared about and people I didn't want to let down. I didn't want to let my wife down. And if I'm being honest, I felt like closing the doors would be admitting failure. So I kept the lights on. I kept making payroll. And over the course of about 18 months, I ran up roughly $200,000 on a line of credit. I had no backlog of business. I had no plan to pay it back. I was just holding on. And here's the part that connects back to lesson 1. During that entire stretch, instead of picking up the phone and doing the hard work of finding new business, I was sitting at my desk building spreadsheets and tweaking processes. I was doing the work I was comfortable with and avoiding the work that could have actually saved the company. Now, I got lucky. A friend called with an opportunity that led to a major client, and we were able to work our way out of that hole. But that outcome had nothing to do with planning or strategy. It was a coin flip that landed in my favor. I look back at that and I think, what would have happened if that phone call never came? And the truth is, my decision to keep going wasn't based on any kind of analysis. It wasn't a calculated bet. It wasn't even a hunch. It was avoidance. I was avoiding a hard truth because I didn't want to face it. As business owners, we fall in love with our own ideas. We believe we can work our way out of anything. And sometimes that grit serves you, but other times it just means you're spending money you don't have to delay a conversation you don't want to have. If you're in a situation right now where you keep telling yourself it'll turn around, stop and ask yourself, is that belief based on evidence or is it based on not wanting to admit what you already know? Lesson number 3, and this is the one that's the hardest for me to admit. You might need to protect your organization from yourself. Here's what it looked like in my business. Every time I went to a conference, my staff was terrified. Not excited, terrified, because they knew what was coming. I would show up on Monday morning with what I thought were 10 or 12 world-changing ideas. I'd sign up for a new app, I'd hire a consultant, I'd start leading the implementation of whatever I'd just learned about for about 2 days. Then I'd hand it off to someone on the team and say, here, finish this up. They hadn't been at the conference. They didn't understand my vision. They had no direction for me beyond my initial burst of enthusiasm. And when it inevitably failed, I'd get frustrated with them. But it got worse. Over time, the boy who cried wolf effect kicked in. When I actually did have a legitimate good idea, my team would just roll their eyes. I had burned through my credibility. I couldn't get buy-in on anything because I'd trained my people to assume that every new initiative would be abandoned by Wednesday. For the longest time, I looked at my team and thought, what is wrong with these people? But the answer obviously was nothing. The problem was me. Then I read a book called Traction by Gino Wickman. It talks about two roles every business needs, a visionary and an integrator. I had never considered myself a visionary, but when the book described the weaknesses of that role, I literally looked around my office to see if someone had put a camera in there. It was me, all of it. Then I read the description of the integrator, the person who takes the visionary's ideas, filters them, organizes them, and protects the team from the chaos. And I realized that person was already in my building. We had a conversation, she accepted the role, and from that point forward, every one of my ideas went through her before it went to the team. That single change probably saved my business more than anything else I've done. 3 lessons, 20 years of tuition. You can't grow a business that nobody knows about. You can't save a business by avoiding hard truths. And you might be the biggest obstacle standing between your team and their best work. None of those were fun to learn, but they're the ones I carry with me every single day. If you're an agent in Central Florida and you want to work with a title company that thinks about business this way, not just closings, reach out to us at True Title. Subscribe if this hit home. I'll see you in the next one.